The Wolf of Snow Hollow is written and directed by Jim Cummings, who stars in the movie alongside the late Robert Forster in his last ever on-screen performance. The movie follows the police force of a quiet American town called Snow Hollow, who are trying to investigate a series of grisly murders who they think might be connected to a werewolf that may or may not be roaming their small town. In 2018, when I attended the London Film Festival for the very first time, I saw a small movie that absolutely blew me away, and it was called Thunder Road. For a number of different reasons, I was impressed with that movie so much that it ended up being on my best of 2018 list, and actually also ended up being on my best of the decade list. I loved it that much that I just had to spread the word, and that I just couldn't stop talking about that movie. And the one thing that impressed me the most about that movie was Jim Cummings, who didn't just write, direct, and star in the movie, but also edited it and did the score as well, and I'm pretty sure he was behind the cinematography as well. You might have to double check that, but he did a lot of stuff all on his own for that movie. And after seeing Thunder Road, I was really intrigued as to what his next project would be. And the fact that it was announced to be a horror comedy about a werewolf, it did kind of surprise me, because it is a complete tonal shift to Thunder Road. But after watching The Wolf of Snow Hollow, there are actually quite a few similarities with Thunder Road. Obviously, there are some very clear differences. For example, Thunder Road is a very small-scale comedy drama about a policeman who's kind of losing the plot a bit. Whereas this movie is quite clearly, first and foremost, a horror comedy. And in that sense, yeah, they are completely different. But tonally and stylistically, and also in a few other aspects as well, this movie does actually share a lot with Thunder Road, Jim Cummings' first movie. The first thing I must say is that when comparing this movie to Thunder Road, there are immediately some very clear improvements that have been made since the two films were done. For example, the cinematography, editing, and score are all massive improvements over Thunder Road. And that's not to say that they were bad in Thunder Road. They were all very good for that movie. But you can tell between Thunder Road and The Wolf of Snow Hollow that they've all kind of had a massive upgrade and just feel a lot more professional and a lot slicker and more defined in this movie. For example, the opening credits of this movie alone showed me that both the cinematography and editing feel a lot more confident in this film than they ever did in Thunder Road. And the score, who is not done by Jim Cummings this time, is done by someone else, just feels a lot grander and, again, a lot more confident, and adds to the presentation and style of the movie a lot more. The performances are all really good in this movie, but for me there were three distinct standouts: Jim Cummings, Ricky Lindhome, and Robert Forster, who all give really good performances, but kind of for completely different reasons each. Jim Cummings, just like Thunder Road, fully commits to his character and really delves into the emotional and personal side of his character, making you feel for his character purely through his performance alone. That's what worked in Thunder Road, and he makes it work here as well. And one thing that surprised me about this movie is just how personal and dramatic and emotional the movie could actually get at times. I thought it was literally just going to follow these murders and their hunt for this werewolf. But actually, the movie takes a lot of time to show you how the police are actually coping with it themselves and how it affects their personal lives. And you get this most notably with the main character played by Jim Cummings, and he carries over a lot of that, human and personal and emotional stuff from Thunder Road into his performance here, and it works really well. Ricky Lindhome plays this police officer who is kind of the more grounded and down-to-earth person in the whole police force, and she really adds a lot of, again, kind of grounded moments compared to, say, Jim Cummings' character, who can feel very stressed and all over the place, and you have her character who is kind of there to just go, right, let's just look at this from a wider perspective and let's just calm the fuck down. And of course you have Robert Forster in his last ever on-screen performance, rest in peace. His performance in this movie is really good, and I'm so glad that this is his last performance, because this is one of the best ones I've ever seen from him. His back and forth between Jim Cummings, who play a father and son dynamic in this movie, really, really works, and it does feel real, their whole father-son relationship in this movie, and how Jim Cummings' character is clearly caring and trying to look after his dad, but there is only so much he can do, and that is made very clear in a few specific scenes throughout this movie. And again, that is mostly strengthened by the chemistry that those two actors have and how good their performances actually are. The writing is also very simplistic, but works very, very well for the sake of the story, and it blends horror, comedy, and drama very seamlessly together, whilst also building upon the characters in the movie almost as effectively as Thunder Road did. You can tell that is where Jim Cummings' strong point is, and he really makes that work in this movie. However, with all that being said, I still think Thunder Road is the better movie. This movie is still enjoyable to watch and is a ton of fun and has some very emotional but also some very funny moments. But if I had to choose between the two, I would, without a doubt, choose Thunder Road over this movie, purely because Thunder Road felt like it flowed a lot smoother and just overall a lot better than this movie does. And that's not to say that the structure of this movie is bad by any means. It works for the sake of the story and the tone that they're going for. But personally, Thunder Road just fit together so seamlessly, and it just felt effortless, the movie. Like, it was all these perfect puzzle pieces fitting perfectly into place, and it just created this near perfect movie, whereas the Wolf of Snow Hollow does feel a little disjointed and doesn't flow as smooth as I was wanting it to. There is also another thing that I want to say about this movie, is that with Thunder Road, for example, it knew its limitations. It knew its budget limitations most of all and worked with it. It didn't try to overdo anything. It didn't try to be overly ambitious. It knew exactly what its constraints were and what its limitations were, and worked within that to make an engaging and captivating story. The Wolf of Snow Hollow does feel like they are starting to push their boundaries a little bit. And even though, again, it mostly does fit within the limitations, there are a few moments here and there where it feels like they're maybe just pushing their limitations a bit too far, whereas with Thunder Road they knew exactly what they were working with and how they could make that work to their advantage. This movie does feel like they are maybe going a little bit too ambitious compared to maybe what their budget can make them cope with, and it is good to see them trying new things and being more ambitious with each feature that they make. But, I mean, for the sake of this movie, it was very noticeable in a few specific moments that maybe their ideas were more ambitious than their budget could allow them to be. Overall, though, The Wolf of Snow Hollow is a very enjoyable movie that carries over a lot of what worked from Thunder Road, whether that be the humour, the drama, or the just human, personal character development aspect of it all. Those aspects are very clearly carried over from that movie, and this movie has a lot going for it as well. But that being said, it doesn't flow nearly as well as Thunder Road, and it feels like they maybe are pushing their limitations maybe a bit too far in this movie, which is why I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's still a very enjoyable movie, and I had a blast watching it, but personally I would probably watch Thunder Road over this movie anytime. So guys, that was my review of The Wolf of Snow Hollow. If you enjoyed it, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye.